Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lozi, host of the Leaders Podcast. Today, I've lost track of what number is this. Maybe episode 6 or 7 with this
Oh, no.
wonderful.
I think it's about 8.
Probably we stopped talking. We might as well just start a new podcast, the Payman and Debra weekly conversation, something like that. Anyways, I'm here with my wonderful friend from the UK, Debra Blackman, your Mary Poppins of the office, aka, right? And we were just having a wonderful conversation. I mean, she asked me before going live, what are you going to talk about? And she put a very beautiful topic we're going to talk about in a moment. But before that, before going live, we were just talking about technology, how amazing it is. For example, I'm a Canadian expat living in Vietnam. She's in the UK. This morning, I had a call with one of my students of my podcast academy. She's in California. Tomorrow, I have a call with another student of mine in New Zealand, and then in Thailand, and in France, and Canada, and Brazil. I mean, mind-blowing stuff. We're talking about the incredible advance of technology. And she said something that said, you know what, Debra, I apologize for cutting you off. Let's record this. This is beautiful. So before we start, first of all, how are you doing this morning, this beautiful Monday morning for you? I hope it's as beautiful as me, sunny and warm for you in the UK.
Well, thank you, Payman. Thank you. And as we are absolutely rubbish at getting our time zones right, I'm actually on a Tuesday.
Oh,
It's actually Tuesday.
my apologies. Yes, Tuesday. Yes, my bad.
But offline, just for your listeners, we were kind of going crazy about with all of the technology and the time zones, thinking what day of the week people
Yes,
are
indeed.
in.
Depending on where you are, for example, my Monday is, if I'm talking to someone in the US, it's their Sunday. For you in the UK, it's the opposite, So
Yeah.
or if someone in New Zealand. So yeah, it's kind of confusing. But anyways, how are you doing today?
Do you know what? I'm really, really good. And
Good.
just to share with your listeners, I'm an ordinary lady in the UK.
No, you're not
And
ordinary. I beg to
well,
differ. You're not ordinary.
I'm
Come
very,
on.
ordinary. I'm very ordinary. I'm extraordinary and ordinary at the same time. And I've been on this journey now for about 18 months of really immersing myself in developing myself to be better for me, because if we're not better for ourselves, we can't help others in the best way possible. But to get to that stage where I can help others more in a more meaningful way. And it's only my journey, and it doesn't might resonate with anybody else, and that's absolutely fine. But I've been it stemmed from looking at motivational videos from the likes of Mel Robbins, what's the other guy, Tony Robbins, Jay Shetty, Lewis Howes, immersing myself in that for about a year rather than watching mainstream TV. And that checked me into something then which was more spiritual, like, well, I'm sorry, but I can look at the mirror and say how wonderful I am, but my body is screaming, actually, no, you're not. You're not wonderful, etc. Or everything's amazing, and actually, no, it's not. And I thought, well, there's a disconnect here. There's something missing. And it was just, serendipity as when one's on a journey, these sorts of things start to happen, these coincidences. And they're not really coincidences. They're there for a reason. But I didn't acknowledge it as such at that stage. And there was one of these videos that then had a guy called Dr. Robert Grant on it. Yeah. And he talked about the Rosicrucian tradition, about looking at all the religions and how to make sense of all the different things that are around in the world. And I'll be honest, I'm not particularly religious or anything like that, but I thought, well, I'll listen to this. And then I listened to another video or so, and then it started to build, and I'm thinking, oh, I think I'm onto something here.
Yeah.
And it all then came from the point of what is within us. From within, as within, so without, as above,
Absolutely.
so below. Yeah. And here's me, ordinary lady in the UK right now. I'm like, I'm like a little kid at Christmas, because this journey is so exciting now, learning, immersing myself in different things. So now I listened to a podcast. I subscribed to the Theosophical Society, very interesting esoteric society. A lot of it scientifically based and what have you, but talking about things in the unseen world, of which there is a lot. And listened to a gentleman called Dr. or Professor Roger Penrose, who is an eminent mathematician, lectures at Oxford University in the UK, internationally renowned as a Nobel Prize winner for physics, I believe, or mathematics or something like that. Anyway, I listened to him being interviewed by an extraordinary lady for this Theosophical Society, all about quantum mechanics. Now, it took me 5 attempts to get my maths O-level back in the day, which is like basic maths. I wasn't good at maths, but I do see things like patterns. Terrible at maths, absolutely horrendous. You know, that I just couldn't see it. And in the sense of learning structured maths like that, I still can't. But I can apply it where I see patterns, because I'm actually really visual and I see patterns. And they were explaining in these extraordinary terms, trying to make it simple. It was still like doing my head in, about the way in which sound waves collapse and act differently in the quantum field, where our normal view of linear time is not the same. You can go back and you can go forward. It's more like a sphere. Well, that's quite a difficult concept for me to kind of gather. But then they put it into a thought process. So when you have a thought, how did that thought originate? And let's say, for instance, you've got a ping pong player or a tennis player where that ball's coming at you at like 100 and something miles an hour. You have to have built some kind of memory or pattern in your mind as the person at the other end of the net that's about to hit this ball back, of how your hand is holding the racket, how you're going to swing your arm, where you're going to aim it. You cannot compute that in your head quick enough for that to have been a thought that you can think in a mechanical way about. And so what they're saying is that the mind goes into retrospective action, links into something that you've already pre-programmed from yourself as a memory, and almost like slows time down, goes backwards, informs your frontal lobe of your brain, or your action center of your brain, to do the action that's needed to get the ball back over the net. In the interval, you know, where it's going to be positioned, the height of it, spin of it, the everything, because you can't just, as a human being, we just can't do that quick enough if we did it in a normal way. And so listening to that and all the things I've been listening about manifestation, that you put yourself in a meditative state or in a quiet, no sort of busyness of your mind, back into a sense that you're looking at yourself either in the future, in the case of a manifestation, you're building up those patterns, you're building up your visual identity of who you are, but you're building up that feeling, you're building up that level of newness. Because if you have a personality that has got you where you are at the moment and you want to change it to something else, by definition, you are going to have to change your personality to get it. And the interesting thing is, if you put yourself in the future, this is what I'm getting from it. You put yourself in the future with your heart. Very important to have that heart and mind connection. They say the biggest journey in your life will be, I think it's 47 centimeters from your brain to your heart and from your heart to your brain.
Oh, in American, they would say the 6 inches.
There you go,
The most
6
important
inches.
6 inches are the distance between your brain and your heart.
Yes. And you've
Yes.
got to get your mind and your heart in coherence.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is where I'm learning this, so your viewers might go, which has been me for like ages. Well, I just don't get this. But your heart and your mind and because the mind is in consciousness.
Mm.
It's the consciousness that needs to start to take over. We're paying homage to the wrong thing, apparently, and I'm just kind of getting my head around it. The mind and heart in coherence, and it comes through the heart. So actually what we're feeling, the feelings that we have in love, in gratitude, there are various states of feeling that create a vibration. They create wavelengths, they create vibrations.
Mm-hmm.
And when we anchor that, we are forming a code that when we project that into the future and we have a vision of what it is that the life that we are leading, that we want to lead, but we make it, and this is where the quantum stuff comes in, we make it the present. We draw it into the present. When we have an emotion or a feeling, or we need to take an action, and I don't know about you, but every time in the UK, we have things with brown envelopes, and everything that's in a brown envelope is a bill.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. So when you receive a brown envelope, especially if it's got HM's, Her Majesty's Customs or tax or IRS or what have you, you look at that envelope and your heart sinks. You don't know what's in it. It could have been, you get a rebate, you could have had a refund, but you look at that and it promotes, well, it does in me, this kind of dread. I'm going to open it up and I'm going to find I owe X amount of thousands of pounds because of my tax.
It's funny because I like the fact that in the UK, bills are all in brown envelopes, and Canada and the US, all envelopes are pretty much white.
Oh, I mean, they're not all in brown envelopes, but traditionally
Ah,
they came in brown envelopes. I'm old enough to
yeah.
know the brown envelope brigade.
Mm.
And it could be that, you've got a rebate, but the way that I looked at it was I had a thought process that I had ingrained over the years of when I see a brown envelope, I had this sinking feeling.
Mm.
But what happens if you think, right, okay, so we are the creatures of the things that we do every day, even the subconscious stuff. So if I could reprogram my brain to think in the future, something that would usually bring me down, and this is where we've come in with the questioning, what lesson is this trying to teach me? Into oh, brilliant, I get to learn. What can I learn? And I know that might sound like, yeah, right, you're mad. But if you can get to that state, you become kind of childlike again. Because
Mm-hmm.
I remember falling off my bike so many times, grazed knees, grazed elbows. One time I fell in a whole load of rocky, spiky, kind of horrible stuff that I fell in. All my arm was bleeding and it was awful. But did that stop me riding the bike? Did that stop me going out with my friends and riding my bike? Oh, no. I just got patched up by my mum and off I went again. And this is the thing, at some point when we become towards adulthood, we
Mm.
lose that sense of purpose. Why was I riding the bike? Because the bike got me to places where I could have fun with my friends, that I could feel the wind going, I could be speedy because I couldn't drive a car at that stage. So that was the fastest I could propel myself. And it was a great
Mm-hmm.
feeling.
Sure.
It gave me independence. It gave me freedom. Did I worry about falling off it? No. And then I got so proficient at it
Mm.
That hardly ever fell off. In fact, I didn't fall off.
It became second nature. Yeah.
Became second nature. And I'm now reprogramming my emotions, because that's what the body thinks as the way it should act. I'm reprogramming my emotions. So the first thing that I do in the morning
Mm.
is I say thank you.
Yes. Count your blessings.
Before I open my eyes, because I don't know about anybody else, but when I've got a lot on or things are challenging, I open my eyes and I get this feeling, this, oh gosh, we're all going to start again today. Well, what's that projecting? That's projecting lack, fear, unhappiness, worry, anxiety. Well, how do I think that that will influence my day, positively or negatively? Well, in the broadest sense, probably not that great. So probably negatively. If I wake up, and the instant I wake up, even before I open my eyes, as I'm in that kind of in between awake and sleep, and if I can get my brain going, thank you. Thank you for waking me up this morning. Thank you for my warm bed. Thank you for the room that I'm in. Thank you for the light of the day. Thank you. It elevates this feeling inside me.
Deborah, you're
And in the
speaking
world, yeah.
you're speaking
Sorry.
exactly my language. Absolutely. I do the same thing. Absolutely. First thing, I thank my blessings. Thank you for my perfect health. Thank you for the roof over my head, the comfortable bed, the healthy food, the wonderful friends and friendships. Thank you for the money that I have. Thank you for the money that's come to me. Thank you for the money that's coming to me. Thank you for all the blessings. And I start with the two things, and now it's literally like a 10-minute prayer. 10 minutes of all, I list everything. Thank you for, I used to list every single organ. Thank you for the clean air in my lungs. Thank you for the clean and pure blood in my heart. My heart is pumping and feeding every inch, every fiber, every organ, every part of my body, every muscle. And I would go my kidney, my liver, my brain, my colon, every organ. And then I would go on and all the people in my life. It would become almost like a 20-minute thing. And I would say that's enough. I can't do 20 minutes each day. Just to 3-4 minutes now. But still, yes, you speaking my language. This is I love this. I love this.
But shall I say this? Right, I will. I'll share what happened yesterday, because I've
Yes,
been
please.
manifesting. I've been asking for a sign. I've been saying, if I'm doing the right thing, if this is the right way to go, show me a sign. Show me a sign out of the blue. So I'm an introverted person, and I go out with my dog every day, and we've got a lovely park where I live, and I walk over the river on the bridge, and I go out into the open countryside, which is beautiful because I live in the middle of a city. I'm very blessed. And because I've got love in my heart and feeling at one and connected, and please be safe when you do this. So, don't talk to random people in unsafe places necessarily. But I've just been speaking with people. Oh, hi there, morning.
Yeah.
I got in touch with a lady. We're walking back from the walk, me and my little doggy, and a lady was walking down the path, and she had tartan trousers on, red check trousers, boots. She had a pizza box under her arm, and of course that attracted my dog because she could smell pizza. So the little doggy ran off, and I went, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Tilly, come back, Tilly." And anyway, she just kind of looked at me a bit. I said, "Oh, I'm really sorry," and I walked on. And then I got up to the top of a hill that this lady was climbing it as well, and I was letting Tilly sniff the grass, and Tilly looked at her again, and I went, "I think you're my dog's favorite today." Well, that led to the most amazing conversation. And I'd asked for a sign of abundance and that I am at one with everything coming out of the blue. So we get talking. I said, "Well, where have you been?" And she goes, "Well, I've just come back." No, she offered. She said, "I've just come back from watching the latest Amy Winehouse film at the cinema." They've just released an Amy Winehouse film on the late singer. And I went, "Oh, that's interesting." And we were talking. And do you know what she did? She reached into her pocket and she said, "I didn't eat any popcorn. Here's a half-price voucher for popcorn if you'd like to go.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, thank you. And
Blessing.
she goes, do you know? And I'm like, oh, wow. And she said, you've got to scan that QR code. Ask them to scan that one at the checkout, she said, but she belongs to a bank or something that provides her with vouchers. And she said, I didn't eat the popcorn. I said, but when you go next time, you could use that. And she went, I want you to have it.
Oh, so sweet.
Oh, amazing. So then it gets better. I get back home and I have a conference call, and there's a gentleman who's the chairman of a big trade magazine in the area, and I'm having a chat with him, and I'm really interested, etc. And he said, Deborah, we're having a magazine launch at this particular area. He said, we've got lots and lots of different businesses that I'd love you to meet that would be really interested in your service. He said, I'd love you to come. So I said, oh, thank you. He went, I'm going to give you a free ticket.
Wow.
A free ticket. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I looked at the thing of what I'd asked for as a sign, and I wrote it down because I've started to journal, because I have to write this down because the things that happen are amazing. And do you know what? That is just amazing. And bringing it back to business, I'm now bringing this wonderful, open-hearted love and abundance and everything. I'm bringing that attitude with my team. And they're responding to it. They are literally on fire. They're unbelievable. I mean, they're just doing work which is extraordinary. I mean, I look at it and I go, I couldn't do. Oh goodness, how are they doing that? But it's because I don't know. Keep on why I'm so surprised all the time, because actually, when you're in this kind of wonderful environment, it's natural. But because of course I've spent the large part of my life not having this feeling, so it's just like, you know, a kid at Christmas is just like, wow, it's almost overwhelming. And this morning when I looked in the mirror and after my gratitude exercises, I could feel my heart opening up, and literally I felt waves of bliss.
I'm feeling it. Yes.
Waves of bliss. And I'm like, steady, I can't feel this all day. This would be like, this is too much. This is amazing. Because something obviously internally, and they say on these podcasts and stuff, and apparently it's medically proven, that you start to change the cells in your body. They start to change. They start to get, you know, they're healing you. It's an extraordinary thing. It's all scientifically based, that your immune system is boosted, your health is improved, your energy levels increase. And it's just, yeah. So I'm banging on like for anything. But all I'd say to people, if you're thinking things are down and it's tough and you don't quite know how you're going to cope, and there's a lot going on in the world. And again, I'm only a normal person in the UK trying to be the best she can be. And we're good as we are, but we can be even better if we choose to be. A little bit of gratitude, a little bit of understanding that there's more than we can see. And that if we can open our heart and get that feeling of openness, that's like a bit like a tap opening at full bore. If we can get that feeling out there, just from my experience, it's coming back in ways in which you just can't predict it, because of course it's not in your predictable environment. It's coming from somewhere else.
Absolutely. What is the fastest way to change a state of mind, even if you're feeling completely low, bad, in a very bad situation, the best way is just start counting the blessings you have. Let's say, for example, an example I always use, and we're going to talk about it in a moment because that's the topic you want to talk today. And I went to that myself. Imagine that you literally have only $20 in your wallet. For example, you open your wallet, you see only $20, and you say, wow, I wish I had more. Instead of saying, I wish I had more, you say, thank you for these $20. Thank you for these £5. Thank you for this $2, whatever it is. Because if you can be grateful for the little things you have, for the small things, then you open yourself to receiving more. And at the same time, because you're being sincerely grateful, you raise your own vibrational frequency. And when you're grateful, you cannot be upset. You cannot be pissed off. You cannot be sad. You cannot be, and guess what is the number one cause of disease? Stress. And when you're grateful, you cannot be stressed. When you cannot be stressed, you cannot be sick. So it's a opposite of the vicious circle. I don't know if there's such a thing that exists, like a blessing circle.
Oh,
You know
it's
what I
a
mean?
virtuous circle.
Virtuous, I call it blessing circle. You know, the more you,
virtuous
more
circle,
yes. So again, and it's free. That's a good news. It's free.
Totally
Because if
free.
you look at your life, or my life, or your life, you say, oh, why are things so tough on me? You might feel that you have problems that are insurmountable. But I can guarantee you, Debra, that there are people on this planet that would absolutely kill to have your problems or my problems. There are people that don't even have a place to sleep. People are being bombed on a daily basis, don't even know where they're going to even make it to the end of the day. How are they going to get food? Forget about getting a job or client. So this is what I always remind myself of, because there are people that would, even today on the way back from the beach, I saw a man in very old clothing. He was selling some local lotteries. I passed him. I was in my thoughts. I didn't pay attention. I came back. I looked at him again, and I just gave him some change. I didn't want to get what he has to say, to tell me to give me. I just wanted to help the guy.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just because I wish I could do more. And that's one of my, if I had a magic wand, I would make all the poverty, all the disease in the world completely vanish. But unfortunately, I don't have that gift. But if I had, I would do that to everyone, because I've been there. I know what it feels like to be. I told you my story last time. At one time in Hong Kong, trying to build a business, completely ran out of money. If it wasn't for a friend of mine that allowed me to stay at this place and literally sleep on his couch for months at a time, and only with $20 to my name per week. Imagine living in London, for example, on 20 pounds, on $20 a week. Just a pint would be $15 or whatever, just a fish and chips or a burger at McDonald's. So again, I've been there, so I can empathize fully with those people. So again, it's being grateful is the single greatest thing you can be, counting your blessings, even the small things you have. So that's my message. You know, if, you know, in these popular games, they always ask you, so imagine that you were standing in front of the world, the entire 8 billion people, and you had one message, 30 seconds. What would be? For me, would be these two things. One, never hold grudges. And number two, always count your blessings. Because if you can be grateful for the smallest things, then you open up yourself, you make yourself receptive and welcoming to more and more blessings. And when you're grateful, of course, you raise your mood, your status, your situation, you become less stressful, you remove stress from your life, and remove stress from your life, you make your body completely toxic for disease. So it's a win-win-win in every aspect. It's like, just like you said, you call it virtuous circle, I call it a blessing circle. Same. That's my message to all. And that's a beautiful segue to what you wanted to talk. Now, the floor and the microphone is to you, my wonderful friend.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. My message would be love and gratitude.
Yes.
And the thing is, we can make that difference. If we can come together as a collective, the more people that are putting this energy out into the world, not to break down existing paradigms, but to make the new ones that are the natural ones that people will follow and leave the old systems behind. If we can put that collective energy of love, gratitude, forgiveness, compassion out there into the world, if we can start off by doing it for 30 seconds, if we can build it up to a minute, if we can build it up to a minute and a half, you know where I'm going. But ultimately, if we can build it and sustain it longer and longer and longer in our daily lives and our sleeping moments, then as a collective with humanity, we will change the world. We will, because it cannot exist if more people get onto that wonderful journey in whichever way they feel is best for them, with love, gratitude, compassion, forgiveness, joy, bliss, abundance. Those drops in the ocean create the ocean, and oceans can create most things, you know.
Preach.
They're amazing. So we
Mm.
can change.
Oh,
And that even if I worked out, if I can touch 2-3 people a day, and then they're blessed, and then they have a friendly word to say to 2-3 more people, then all of a sudden you're talking into the thousands of people just by that one person with a smile, a genuine, loving smile to somebody. And the great thing is, as you said, it's free. It's
you
all
know,
free of charge.
you speaking completely my language. I am buzzing when I listen to you. But forget about 3 people. Even if you're to do it with just one person a day, one person, you inspire someone, you uplift them, you empower them, or you just give them back the smile, or give them back their hope in themselves, or just make them believe in themselves again, make them believe in humanity again, or whatever. And that person goes on and pays it forward to someone else, and so on and so forth. I heard it one time that if every single one of us were to inspire just one person, and that person goes on to the same to someone else, within 30 days, would a completely different, not just world, but completely different civilization.
Yeah. And
Imagine
the thing
that.
is, if you are at home and you're not going out today, that's absolutely fine, because guess what? You've got yourself, and you can give it to yourself.
You get Zoom.
Yeah, you
You
can,
get.
but you can give it, the wonderful person that's
Mhm.
in this physical form, you can give it to that person.
You know, one thing that I'm missing also growing up in the small town in the late 80s, early 90s is people was so much more, there was so much more humanity. Like, for example, our neighbors were literally family and friends. They would knock on the door. I remember the first time we moved to a neighborhood in the south of France. The first night we had a knock on the door, we opened. I was a young boy. The man of the household just above us, they brought us a massive platter of Arabic food, couscous royal. They had a at the time they had a restaurant in town, and pretty much every night they would bring us food. Or sometime when my parents were working, we would just go to the house. They would
Yeah,
babysit us. Or for example, I know this is kind of funny. For example, your neighbor knocks on the door. Maybe not nowadays no more, but back then, can I borrow some sugar or some salt from you? And then can I have some oil? You know, and this
yeah,
human touch, you know. We actually interacted. We're family almost with neighbors. Now you don't
yeah,
even know your neighbor, just a casual, hi, how are you? Good, thank you. And that's it. It's so sad. That's one of the things that really kills me, this lack of human interaction. We're talking to people from around the world. We can't even say hi to the person sitting next to us on a plane, on a train, or even a neighbor. Forget about that. Even your neighbor, the person you live there all your life, or maybe not all your life, but a big chunk of your time. Just go say hi. How are you? How's your day? Get to know them.
yeah.
That's one of the things I really, really miss, especially in the big cities. Here in Vietnam, people are there's this interaction. People are very, this sense of community. But unfortunately, in the Western world, at least in North America, I'm not sure in the UK, but in North America and the big cities, that doesn't exist anymore.
No, it's more difficult. But I remember growing up in the countryside, and everybody in the village were aunties and uncles.
Yeah,
You know, go to Auntie Sue's, or go say hi to Uncle Bob, or, and you know, they were all aunties and uncles, and all the kids played together, and we all went to each other's houses, and you know, we'd have sleepovers and you got older,
yeah.
etc. But everybody, not everybody, but the majority of people, I suppose it's with people with kids,
Mm.
but there was a community. You're quite right. People used to meet up for things like Harvest Festival. They'd put on barbecues. They'd put on sort of like buffet kind of all style getting together, where all the people would make a dish and everybody would get together and share it, etc. And that, well, I think there was a certain extent that my mum and a lot of other ladies in that village in England, they didn't work in the sense of go out to work. So they were around and they'd meet for coffee. There were no coffee shops back in when I was growing up. So they'd go to each other's houses for coffee. They'd go together and they'd have, if there'd been some kind of thing for charity, they'd knit things for charity or what have you, whatever. So there was a sense of community in that regard, but with people working. But the great thing is, you know, you can have communities at work, you can have different sorts of communities. But yeah, interestingly enough, you know, when we're talking about what I'd originally said, if it's okay, if we've got the time, I didn't live in a very nice and helpful family environment. My parents, unfortunately, as I know now, suffered from mental illness and had been abused themselves. So it was a very difficult upbringing. And shockingly for me, I couldn't get back into my home. My parents had double locked the doors. I couldn't get in. At the age of about 17 and a half, they just decided that they didn't want me in the house anymore. And I literally had the clothes that I stood up in. I had, back in the day, £5 in my purse. There were no things like mobile phones or anything like that. I went to the local call box because we used to have telephone boxes in every village and in towns back in those days. And we all knew each other's numbers, because now we don't tend to remember people's numbers, but we memorized them because you had to in the past. And I remember ringing a friend of mine to say, could I come and stay for a bit? And the parents had said yes. And for the next at least 18 months to 2 years, I was homeless. And I hadn't been equipped with the lifestyle that I'd led. I led a very insular, sheltered life, of how you deal with the outside world. I couldn't go to university as a result. Well, I just didn't feel I could cope with that. So I managed to get myself my first job. Literally, I went through, in those days, we used to have things called the telephone book.
Yellow pages.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, yellow pages. And I looked to see which companies were local to where I was living. And I rang them. And I said, you know, have you got any vacancies? Because I'm a young person, I'd like to start to work. Unfortunately, the local authority hired me for, you know, I said I was terrible at maths. They hired me in their accounts department, which was
At least you're not a math teacher, a math mentor, you know. Imagine that.
So there's me in the accounts department not being able to do maths, but there we go. And at that stage, then I met a very nice gentleman, slightly older than me, and I was married at just turned 19, literally because I needed a roof over my head. I didn't know what love was, so I couldn't say I love this gentleman, but fortunately he was incredibly kind, very, very sweet-natured person, thank goodness, because it could have been a completely different set of circumstances. And we were married for 5 years. But it was through those times that I was, again, you know how we're saying these little feelings of dread that multiplied every day, when you feel them become a trait and then they become your personality. I was very fearful of change. I was very fearful. I came from a very scarce sense of scarcity, of lack, of worry, of anxiety, which is completely understandable because that was my situation. But I couldn't get rid of that feeling. I couldn't start to act as if, even when I was working in London Way after I got divorced, and I had very good jobs, and I was earning lots of money, and I was dealing with very high profile people because of the kind of work that I was doing, I still was hugely anxious, massive anxiety attacks, being somebody that I wasn't because I didn't know who I was. And now I know, okay, I carried that around with me. I'm completely fine. I'm 60 this year. I carried that around with me for 58 years of my life.
Wow.
Well, you can't break those chains overnight. You have to do it bit by bit and be kind and compassionate. And that's why I say to anybody on this journey, or anybody that feels life is so tough and so challenging, be compassionate to yourself.
Absolutely.
Understand you're a good person. And if you can see areas in your life where you're not a good person, and I wasn't, you know, I not to my husband, but I've cheated on men, I've done not nice things to people, etc., because I felt resentment, I felt anger, I felt self-loathing. I wanted to punish people for what I'd gone through that didn't even have any hand in what I'd gone through. And the lens that I was looking through the world was very dark and very hateful and spiteful and revengeful, and everything was out. I thought at one point I was going to have to think of going to some kind of spiritual thing. I thought I was cursed. I literally thought I was carrying on a generational curse, because the victim mentality, which I know where it's come from, and now I know where it's come from. The thing is, when we hide everything, we hide it in plain sight. It's always there. We just don't recognize it as such. On this journey now, and don't get me wrong, there's times when these things, these emotions and these fears and the dark side and the shadows of my life, they come back. And that's okay, because if they come back, guess what? I can deal with them and I can get rid of them. It's
Indeed.
not about suppressing things and saying everything's fine when it's not. So when they emerge, when I have those feelings, and this is the gratitude thing that we talked about, this is the abundance feeling. It's not squashing those feelings, because they're going to come up. Those bad feelings will come up, come what may, because they need to. You can't have something which is carrying water that's got big murky mud in the bottom and just pretend it's not there. You've got to kind of do yourself to cleanse yourself with more and more water, pure, beautiful water, so that what's from down below rises up. It's a bit like when you wash rice or things with starch in them, and the rice gives off this starch, and you drain the rice off, and then you refill it, and the rice still has starch in it, so you drain that off, and then the water becomes clearer and clearer and clearer. But what you've done is you've kept on pouring that clear water in, so that the equivalent of the starch in you comes up to the surface, and you drain it off, and you drain it off, and you drain it off, until it's just not there anymore. But I felt that I've had to, I say you've got to, I've had to do that. And I am always going to have to do that, because, 58 years of my life spent in that kind of toxic environment, where it was jacked solid with horrible, this monster that I had, the out-of-body experience. I know what that is now. That putrefaction inside me, it went, that heaviness. But there's always going to be something that kind of bubbles up, because I have something called an ego, which we all do. But it's filling it with that wonderful purity that then you can just keep skimming it off the top, just keep filling up the vessel, keep filling it up with that beautiful white purity of light and love and abundance, and sit with the feelings that I'm sitting with feelings that come up, and observe them as an observer, because you see, that's in the past. We talked about quantum mechanics. That's in the past. That's the old coding. That's the old programming. I'm now rewiring my coding. I'm rewiring my software. I'm rewiring my software program, but I've got to, like anybody that's cleansing software for bugs and glitches and whatever, you've got to find those glitches and get rid of them. So I'm scanning myself for those glitches. And when those glitches emerge and I can see there's interference with the connectivity and the operations of my software, I'm going, okay, where did that come from? What prompted that? Why am I feeling like this? What lesson is this trying to teach me?
I was about to
Where
ask you
am I
that.
going? Yeah? Where
Yeah.
am I headed with this? It's okay. Interesting. Objectify it. Don't get consumed by it. Look at it as I'm looking at it as an observer, as somebody that is higher than me, and I'm looking down at it and I'm going, well, that's interesting. So what's that all about then? Feeling of anger, feeling of resentment, feeling of lack, feeling of not good enough, feeling of being shy, feeling of, I'm spiteful, rage of what, oh, interesting. Why is that coming up right now? And then going, you know what? I understand you for what you are, as a feeling, as a thought, as an action. Thank you for making me realize this. I bless you. I forgive you. You can go now. Off you go. You're not needed anymore. You served your purpose and now you can let go. And then what I'm doing is imagining a silver cord between me and that. And with an enormous pair of scissors, like ceremonial scissors that people cut ribbons with when they open up stores, I'm going with that ribbon, those big scissors, and I'm cutting it. And I'm saying, goodbye.
I release you
Thank
with
you.
care and love in the world.
Goodbye.
Yes.
Yeah, off you go.
Mm-hmm.
And I do that with, I feel, people that I've been hurt by. I do that with the feelings that I feel I've hurt others by, and I wish others well. And I say, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you for people who've hurt me and for people that I know I've hurt. And I cut that and I let it go.
Beautiful.
Because it's important for me to get rid of the self-shame, the self-loathing. I was a different person. It doesn't, I forgive so that I can be better, that I won't be doing it to anybody else. And I send out love to the people that I've hurt in the past. Genuine, think of them, bring them up in my mind's eye and love them and send them love. Because let's face it, we've all done things we're not proud of. We've all done things that you think, oh, I wish I'd never said that, or I wish I'd never did that. I've cheated on people with other people. I'm not proud of that. I feel that I've hurt people in that way. I've ruined relationships because of my anger and my resentment to people that didn't deserve it. They didn't do anything that awful for me to react in that way. That was me coming out from my hurt, my trauma, my issues, and I was projecting it onto other people because I wasn't well, I wasn't healed. Am I proud of that? No. Did it happen? Yes. Am I a human being? Yes. Compassion to myself. Now I know it. It would be different if I did it again, because I know now. But I won't be doing it again because I'm a different person. And once you change those things in yourself and keep watchful of these things that emerge, that when you're filling it with the light and the purity, again, in this vessel, and it's bringing up these things, you just look and go, oh, okay, right. What are you trying to teach me? What's the lesson? Why am I feeling like this? Don't get involved in the emotion. Don't identify with it. Just let it go. Keep letting it go. Let the rice, let the starch flow over the side and fill up with the water, because you can, this water, the purity, the light is infinite. It's
Mm,
never going to run out. You're never going to run out of that source of light
mm.
and clarity and purity. So just keep on bringing it in and washing out the stuff that you don't want in the vessel anymore.
Indeed. Wow. Beautiful. So now when looking back at the incredible journey you've come through and overcome, all the challenges you overcome, all the lessons you've learned, how are you now sharing your gifts around you and around the world? That was actually a topic of my recent book, but I would love to have your say on that. How are you, Debra Blackman, sharing your gifts accumulated over almost 60 years in this life, in this planet, in this lifetime? How are you sharing your gifts around you and around the world? We can
Thank
do
you.
an
Really
entire
good point.
podcast on that. An entire, and by
Well,
podcast, I don't
you
mean
know,
just an episode, an entire podcast, books.
you know how I can talk, so I'll keep it brief.
Mhm.
So I'm first of all giving that to myself.
Mm,
I'm nourishing myself with it, because the more nourished and whole and healthy we are in all elements, we can give more.
mhm,
I'm giving it to my team across the world. They're based in Lahore in Pakistan, because my mindset with them is of this love, of this abundance, of this care, of this forgiveness. I'm sharing that with them. And when I go out, it's just happening. I'm shy. Well, I was. The person that I was before was shy. I was fearful of what others would think of me. I had all the things to walk past people with my head down, not look at anybody, not interact, not make eye contact, try and go around unseen. And now, because I feel so much more connected and so much more part of the world, I can talk to somebody. A young lady was photographing some flowers
mm.
in the park, and I just walked up to her and I said, "It's beautiful, isn't it?" And she said, big beaming smile, "Yeah." And we got talking about the beautiful plants and the trees and the blossom in the park and the magnolia bushes and the trees. And oh, it was fabulous. We had a beautiful, we learned that she'd been to Liverpool University, that she was born in London. So we shared some stories about London, and that she loved this area so much she stayed when she left university. I found out this extraordinary thing about her, and we both went off with big smiles on our faces and really feeling good about the little interaction. It doesn't have to be news headline, person does XYZ. It can be the small things. It can be at the checkout at the supermarket with the person that is checking out the goods saying, "How are you today? It's is it busy?" And strike up a nice, loving conversation with somebody. There was an older couple that were walking their dog again in the park when I go out. And that's the great thing with having a dog, it makes you go outside. But they were talking, and they're doing a reconstruction of a bridge over the river near where I live, and they were talking about it. And in the end, we felt like we knew each other all our lives. It's
Wow.
weird because the depth of the conversations, it's like I'm having with you, is you get very deep with people very quickly. It's very
Mm.
satisfying to
As
have,
long as you speak from the heart, that's
yes,
where magic happens.
yes, deep. And the other thing is laughing with people. I I've been guarded. I hadn't even realized. Laughing with other people is extraordinary. It's I again, there was somebody was saying something and it made me laugh. And for the first time ever, it's ever happened with a stranger, I had this belly laugh and I let it go. Oh my word, that was an amazing experience. That was very recent. Laughing, genuinely
Mhm.
laughing, and not taking things so seriously. I'm one, I get kind of obsessive about stuff and I can get really serious about something. Not that it's not important, but my serious things can bring in the more of the dark side about me and get anxious and this has got to work, da 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 da. Let it go. let the you know, the fun, the real fun in life start to come out. Because I've not really been a fun orientated person, and now I can see the more of the fun in life, more of that frivolous, light-hearted, warm sense of rosiness about life. I'm just beginning to start to experience that more, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, let the inner child in you shine. Don't suppress it. Embrace it and let it speak, because no matter how old you are, whether you're 2 years old or 95,000 years old, we all want to have fun. And the inner child, as far as I'm concerned, that's the very essence of life. The moment you suppress your inner child, you might as well just lay down and dig a hole 6 feet under and just go there. Lights out.
You know, and that's the thing. That's these are the little things that I'm doing, putting it out there into the world. And overall, you know, no, it's not headline grabbing things. And that's where you say the little things is making the difference, and noticing the little things, little forget-me-not flowers, little blue flowers, tiny little blue flowers in the next to the fence in the park, and the bird that's hopping about outside the back door, or just take delight as if it were the first time you've seen it, and marvel at the fact that that little bird can fly hundreds of feet in the sky, and it's chosen to be in my back garden. You know, it's just those little things for me, and it's more and more little things get to bigger and bigger things. It's just the consistency and doing it over and over and over again, and reprogramming the software inside me.
Totally. You know, they say it's a small details that make the big picture. Nothing's big. Everything big you see around you, even the biggest company in the world, Apple, was started in someone's basement, someone's mind, something very small. And it's the consistent small action taken over time that make things happen. There's a beautiful book called actually two beautiful books. One is the Compound Effect, and two is called The Slight Edge. Highly I recommend, which are based on the same principle of small actions every day consistently. That's where massive changes happen. You mentioned one sentence. I've actually on my notepad, I have an entire folder of quotes. You said one thing I just wrote down is so beautiful. It says, "It's not headline worthy, but it can be life changing." And I wrote it down, and I put the quote, the source, Debra Blackman. I have an entire folder on my computer of quotes. They can be from famous people. They can be from people I talk to every day. Sometimes it can even be from myself when I get inspired from quotes. I just wrote down, it's not headline. It may not be headline worthy, but can be life changing.
Yeah.
Signed, Debra Blackman.
Thank you very much.
T-shirt worthy. Make it a quote. You know, frame it. Nice background.
Well, you know, and as I said, you know, I'm extraordinary in one way, as we all are, but I'm a very ordinary person. And, you know, for me, this is working. You know, whatever works is, you know, as long as it's coming from a place of love and abundance and gratitude and harmony and what have you, and for the good of others. But this, for me, is transformational. It is, I'm not the same person, and that person, you know, I'm not, you know, not saying anything, but I am not the same person I was 2 years ago.
Speaking of that, imagine if you could go back in time and sit, not with the 18-year-old Debra, but the Debra of, say, 5-10 years ago. Would you recognize that person, and what would be the number one piece of advice you would give to her, knowing all that you know now?
That I am blessed, and that this is happening. This is a very good question. This is happening for the best possible reasons, because I'm here to find out what my soul purpose is. Why am I here? And this is why I say with suffering, it is here to teach you something. It is here to you, like you say, it is here for you to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could say one thing to that person without the knowledge that I have now, is this is all coming for a reason that will unfold.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
then there's always, that's when I thought I was cursed. 5 years ago, I thought I was cursed. I thought I was carrying a generational curse. My parents were mentally ill. It stopped with myself and my brother, who's now passed away. No children, cutting out the badness, the evilness, the hatred, cutting it out, not letting it go any further. The interesting thing is, the words that I said, the actions that I had, the thoughts that I'd created caused hurt to others. I did some nice things, don't get me wrong. I wasn't this awful person, but the only person I was really punishing was myself.
Certainly.
That was the person that I'd put in my own prison. I'd locked myself in there fairly and squarely. I really made that prison pretty small, pretty horrible, pretty dark, pretty bleak, and I couldn't see a way out. But the way out is within.
Of course, all the time.
Always within. And I was attempting to do it. And this is the other thing. Something has to happen. There has to be a catalyst. There has to be sort of like that point of no more. This is it. No more. I'm not living like this anymore. So there has to be a trigger, usually a catalyst. Some people say they had to go to rock bottom. Well, some people's idea of rock bottom is different to others, but there had to be. Now, mine was the breakdown. I had to break down to break up, to build up. And it was, the straw that broke the camel's back, to use another phrase. It had to happen. And I was mucking about around the edges and around the periphery for years, trying to dabble a bit into new ways of thinking or what have you. But all the while, I'd be brought back very quickly into my old habits and the way in which life was, except, the ease of the feeling of falling in love with the feeling of being awful. Because the addiction to feeling awful
Did that
was
make
too
you feel
strong to break
powerful
free.
when you were being mean to people?
It gave me a sense of control. It gave me a sense of I'm better than you. It gave me a sense of empowerment. But weirdly enough, the diametrically opposed opposite is true. The more I know that I serve, the more I know that others are amazing. I met a wonderful, wonderful lady yesterday who's just become a client. I'm just now marveling in the beauty of the human beingness of other people. Total different way of looking at it. And so weirdly enough, the prison, they say there's a Bible phrase, you have to walk through the eye of the needle. It's like the camel or something through an eye of a needle, and you go, huh? Well, that whole thing for me is within. And the weird thing is, you get to that point and you go, no more, that's it, I've had it. I've tried to do away with myself. I've tried to commit suicide, obviously unsuccessfully, which is amazing, thank goodness.
God.
Yeah, exactly. But ultimately, going inward, oh my word, yes, it's not easy. You find things there that is like a house of horrors. But if you can sit with it and know that you need to just do that to push through bit by bit by bit by bit by bit, the counseling was great to get me going on the right direction. And then it kind of didn't manifest anything for about 6 months. And then all of a sudden, as I say, the journey started with uplifting videos and things like that. And that was my wake-up call, but it happened very subtly. And I look back in the mirror the other day. I've only got one mirror in my house, and it's in my bathroom upstairs. Not that that's got anything to do with it, but it just shows you where I was. So I was looking at myself in the bathroom mirror, and I had different eyes. My eyes were different.
Wow.
There you go, I've changed. I don't have the same eyes. I wasn't looking through the same eyes anymore. I don't know, I can't explain the feeling very well, but it was, hey, this is a
What did
new
you see in
me.
those eyes? Did you see more love, more compassion, more goodness in those eyes?
Well, the weird thing is, they were so clear.
Mm.
Clearness of my eyes. I've got brown eyes, but the depth that would, the light that was shining and the depth that was there and the clarity of those eyes was just like, whoa, they're not my eyes. I'm getting used to a new set of eyes. It's just like, wow, that's incredible.
Wow.
And every night I've been listening to a guided meditation, which is
Mm.
talking about abundance and being the person of changing the personality that will be the person that will be that one that manifests, when the things are manifested. Well, I am. The
Mm.
old Deborah is gone. The eyes have changed. And it's like, whoa, I've got to get used to the new set of eyes. But I just knew that person that was looking out from those eyes are different from what they were the day before.
You know,
And it was a gradual thing. It's weird.
yeah, some people take that even to the extreme. They even throw away the old clothes. They get a new complete set of, wardrobe and all that because they were completely detached themselves from the previous personality, previous person, and all that. Did you do anything similar? Did you revamp your style, change it just to be completely different? Maybe throw away some of your clothes that reminded you of some negative moments or bad episodes or anything in your life?
No, but the wonderful thing is I've embraced my
Mm,
old self, because if it wasn't for my old self, I wouldn't be here now.
mm,
I'd be somewhere else, wouldn't I? But I wouldn't be here
sure.
now in this amazing part of my life. So that part had a part to play. So I'm not burying it. My feeling is that it's part of everything. It's part of the story. It just isn't needed now.
Speaking of story, you have a pen in your hand, you have a book. What's the next chapter of Deborah's life gonna be look like?
Oh, right. Okay. So I've already got this sorted. I'm going to be doing your podcasting training. Yeah, I definitely am. And Deborah now has the voice
Mm,
from the sincere authenticness of my being to be able to share from a business community and from people who are at that stage in their lives that don't want to carry on in the way that they are at the moment.
mm,
I want to make a positive difference globally to people's lives, to help them to navigate their own next phase of their journey, to bring peace and abundance, to help them manifest that in their lives. As I say, I'm an ordinary, extraordinary person, but the journey that I am on, as I say, is so transformational, and it works so well in business, and it works so well from a personal perspective. Now I know it, it would be wrong of me not to share it, because if I'm being given these gifts, I have to share them, because
absolutely.
otherwise I wouldn't be fulfilling my part of the contract in that sense.
Absolutely. And you definitely don't want to come back and redo the class, you know?
No, well, not in this lifetime anyway.
No.
But I have the experience I have, and I don't want to sound egotistical, the experience that I have gone through and I'm going through is so transformational. Why wouldn't I want to help other people in a
Mm,
global sense? So I can see, I've been manifesting in my mind's eye. I've been manifesting a center where people come together that has bricks and mortar presence, where there's things like yoga, healing therapies, education, counseling classes. This is a big it's a big dream, because ultimately now I know the power of what's out there, or I've got a glimpse of it, I should say, a glimpse of the power that's out there from my small, even just like microscopic incremental glimpse into this amazing world. It is enormous, where anything wonderful can happen in a massive scale. So I don't want to be limited to my own. I want to be in the quantum field where there's the time and space, and that whole continuum is different, because that's where the limitlessness of what I can do abides. And with the grace of the universe, with the grace of the world that is unseen, it will happen. I have every faith it will happen in ways that I can't foretell, because it's not coming from my normal state of thought process in that sense. It's coming from my intuition.
Indeed. Wow. Beautiful. I can't wait to, so to speak, read the next chapter of you and be a part in helping you, getting your voice out, helping you share your gifts, identify your gifts, embrace them, and share them loud and proud to your podcast and eventually to your books. Because I believe there's a saying that says that we all have a good book in us, but after having listened to you for the past, I don't know, 3 4 months, maybe let's round it to 10 episodes. I can say that my MTA, this guy is my MTA, I call him my MTA, which is my most trusted advisor, and has been pretty much on point every time. This guy is telling me that you, Debra, you have quite a few books in you, and quite a few very good books in you. So just putting it out there. Just putting it out
Well, thank you. Thank you
there.
so
Very
much.
welcome.
And if anything I can do to help people, anything I
Yeah.
can do just to, show that an ordinary lady from the UK can have a life transformation in the way that she's living, thinking, feeling, acting, behaving. If it can be in me, there's a whole heap of other people that it can help as
Absolutely.
well.
Just keep sharing your gifts, keep spreading your positivity, your smile, your kindness, your knowledge, your wisdom, your gifts. As long as you can help one person smile, breathe better, or just be happier, just find again their, not just a purpose, but find belief in themselves, find belief in humanity again. These are things that don't cost much. Just a simple smile, just like you mentioned at the store. People have, the cashiers have a tag, name tag. Just, hey, how's going, Mary? Hey, John, how's your day? Just by greeting them, as opposed to just looking at them as if they were just part of the furniture, so to speak. Address them as human being, make them feel seen. Maybe
Yes.
to you it might seem insignificant, but to that person, you're probably the only person in the entire day that does that to them. That can mean that can be the spark in them, So just keep doing it. You're doing amazing. I salute you. You're a true leader with a heart, beautiful heart, and powerful story. And now a wonderful, wonderful, inspiring, empowering message, and an even more a true goosebump inducing story. Because the story, from what we uncovered together, you allowed us to, and me to really peel the onion layer by layer. That's an incredible story. That's a beautiful voice. That's a phenomenal gift. You've been blessed. That's a truly transformational and transformative transformation, because you went from one extreme to the other, from what I understand. And now you're a beacon of light. You can be a true inspiration for others. And if again, you might be a bit more optimistic. You might be very, forward thinking. I love that. When you said 3 people in a day, just one person a day is enough. If you can inspire just one person, bring hope to one person, bring smile to one person, or give them back the belief in themselves, or give them hope again in humanity and kindness, just one person at a time, then that, my friend, your mission is more than completed. This is my purpose. When I bring you, well, I've brought you countless times on my podcast. If just your story can inspire just one person, then to me, I feel that it's been successful. You don't have to become
Oh,
the next
thank you.
Elon Musk or the next Newton or Shakespeare, whatever. No, just one person. That's all.
Hey, the power of one is amazing. Absolutely. Thank you, Payman. It, as always, has been a privilege and honor. I've
Pleasure's all
enjoyed every
mine.
minute. Thank you. And
Yes.
thank you for your listeners as well.
Oh, yes. It's been a
Well, if you've got this far, you
beautiful
deserve a
conversation. You
medal.
know,
So thank you.
I
Thank
wish
you.
we had, well, I have a cup of tea. I wish we had some cookies and teas in person. I can't wait to have this conversation in person. Over a nice glass of wine and a cigar, you know, a beautiful place. We'll do that soon. You'll do that soon. So listen, I salute you. Oh, before we finish, what's the best way for people to reach out to you if someone wants to connect you?
Yeah, well, email, they can email me. It's DB for Debra Blackman at Vessentially, that's VIESSENTIALLY.com. You can see things behind me as well. I'm on LinkedIn. Please do be in touch. It'd be lovely to hear from you. And yeah, always happy to help.
Absolutely. I'll put all of that in the show notes. Listen, Debra, I salute you. Keep shining your light. Keep blessing the world with everything you've got. You're a true leader with heart. Have a great one. As we say back home in Canada, have a fantabulous day ahead of you. Take care.
Oh, thank you, Payman. Take care. Thanks
You're
so much.
welcome. Cheers. Bye-bye.